I'm Edwin Warfield, the publisher of City Biz, and I'm honored today to interview Richard Hughen, who is the CEO of Linshom Medical. Welcome, Richard.
Hey, very nice to see you.
Your company is focused on eliminating the morbidity, mortality, and expense of unrecognized respiratory decline in healthcare. Can you provide an introduction to the company and the device?
Sure. Linshom Medical is the first to deliver a wearable, FDA-cleared, operating room quality respiratory profile to the patient bedside. This provides early warning of problems and thus avoids rapid response activations, rescue events, ICU transfers, and even some deaths. The current technology that's available in the operating room and the intensive care unit works great, fantastic. It's just not transferable to the patient bedside. It's too big, it's too expensive, and too complex to be decentralized to the bedside, much less the patient's home.
And so, how does your sensor improve on current respiratory monitoring?
So the problem is that respiratory monitoring is just absent in much of healthcare. Areas like the general care floor, the emergency room, the post-anesthesia care unit simply don't monitor respiration. Then when the patients go home, there's certainly nothing available to them. And the issue is that current standard of care for respiratory monitoring outside of the OR and the ICU is completely responsive. Alarms go off when the patient is already in trouble. Standard of care is basically clinical observation or eyes on the patient and intermittent, sometimes continuous pulse oximetry. So this standard of care misses 90% of adverse event warnings, 90%. And these results are completely avoidable. We can, if we monitor patients' respiration continuously, cost effectively, we can intercept these rapid response activation codes, rescue events, ICU transfers.
So your career includes stints at Abbott, J.J. Cordis, Learnware, BD, and CSA Medical, as well as you were entrepreneur in residence at the University of Maryland Ventures and the Johns Hopkins Technology Ventures. Can you provide some highlights of your career and the decision to join the company?
Sure. Yeah, I've been in the medical device my whole life since getting out of grad school. Early experiences, the Fortune 100 giants that you detailed, these were terrific companies, great training, great background for what I'm doing today. The move to Cordis was actually an effort to go smaller, but J&J bought it, and that quickly ended up very, very big. So that incented me to go really, really small to a company, Learnware, an e-learning, e-marketing startup that we pivoted to the pharmaceutical and medical device businesses and built that up, and it was sold to a private equity firm. And after that, joined CSA Medical, fourth or fifth employee, and that was built up and sold to Steris in 2019. And then I got involved with Linshom via TEDCO in Maryland. TEDCO asked me to do a short kind of 6-month rental CEO stint and see if I could help get the company unstuck from a regulatory and a fundraising standpoint. And we did that. We got FDA clearance, raised $2 million in convertible note funding. And that was 5 years ago. So it's gone fairly well since then.
So can you walk us in a little more detail on the FDA clearance and the status of your clinical study?
Sure. So we received our first FDA clearance in 2020 to strategically establish our device as a predicate for itself for future clearances. So we're actually submitting our second FDA clearance before the end of this year. The clinical study that we're currently involved in at Ohio State is funded by a $2.4 million grant from NIH. A piece of that is to fund this study that is basically comparing how our sensor compares to current standard of care in early detection of respiratory events. They've enrolled over 400 patients since March, an actual enrollment dream account, and the early results are very encouraging.
And are there any other recent milestones over the last couple of years that you want to share with us?
Sure. I mean, overall, we've raised $3.3 million in non-dilutive funds from NIH, the Air Force, Maryland Industrial Partnerships, Lighthouse Labs, ATI. We've pretty much matched our investors' dollars 1-for-1 with non-dilutive capital. So we're happy about that. Our investors are happy about that. Other big milestones, we're patented worldwide. We have completed studies and published data proving the efficacy of the technology. We have publications from Cleveland Clinic, from Brigham and Women's Hospital and University of Mississippi that all document the quality of the results. And we're finishing our Ohio State study now, and we just started a small study at University of Maryland with a recent MIPS, Maryland Industrial Partnerships grant.
And tell us about the role and capital that TEDCO has provided.
So TEDCO has been a fantastic partner. There's just no other way to put it. It started with a $100,000 convertible note that was before my time, but that allowed the engineering team to get the original one-piece sensor completely built, tested, and it was eventually the data that we used to submit to the FDA. Since that time, TEDCO has followed on, as I mentioned previously, with the brief rental executive program that initially got my involvement. And then most recently, TEDCO put some substantial funds in our Series A round back in December. And most recently, just a few months ago, followed that investment with another Series A investment in our ongoing A preferred round.
And you've got the Maryland Momentum Fund also as an investor. When did they come in?
They were actually the first investor in the Series A round. So a huge thanks and credit to the support from Momentum Fund as they basically kicked off the A round. As you know, that fund requires matching, so they put $250,000 in, and our existing investors from the convertible note and a couple new investors matched that, and that's really what got our A round going.
And so what are the growth plans for the company?
So our near-term goal is to finish the study at Ohio State, and then that NIH funding that I mentioned earlier also funds the miniaturization of our sensor to get it even smaller. This is an example of our current sensor, really, really small. We're going to get it about 1/10 this size so that it fits in even smaller form factors like a nasal cannula or form factors that allow us to get into the home monitoring market, monitoring COPD patients, chronic heart failure patients in their living room, bedroom, and again, preempting those disastrous declines and intercepting them on the front end. So the NIH grant funds these two big milestones, and that's really what we're focused on right now, because that's the data that gets us ready for market launch about this time next year.
And is there any part of your personal journey and the company's journey that you'd like to share with us that you haven't shared?
No, I think this pretty much covers it. I appreciate the time and the attention, and I just thank all of the organizations previously mentioned that have supported Linshom and our massive staff of 4 employees who have been able to bring this device so far in a short period of time.
Well, Richard, I want to thank you for sharing your journey and the journey of the company, and we wish you the best of luck and keep us apprised as you move to Series B and get traction in the marketplace. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.